The right to offend is not some pesky little part of freedom of speech that we have to put up with. It is the heart and soul and lungs of freedom of speech. It is the coursing lifeblood of human progress. It is the instigator of liberty and modernity and science and understanding. What a laughing stock today's student leaders are, that they can so casually dismiss the right to be offensive without realizing that their lovely, enlightened lives are the gift of individuals who gave offense. Offensiveness is not just something we have to begrudgingly accept. Offensiveness is the motor of human progress.
Now broadcasting from the Right to Offend Media Studios in sunny South Florida, bringing you the latest in politics, current events, art, and pop culture. This is the Whitfield Report Live with Sam Whitfield.
But giving offense is good. In fact, it's essential.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Monday edition of the Whitfield Report. I am your host, Sam Whitfield, recording here at Right to Offend Studios in South Florida. And I do not have a guest today, ladies and gentlemen. Rather, I am flying solo. It's just me today. And yeah, part of that is just because we don't have any guests, but also I wanted to take the opportunity here to do just a bit of a reflective show for you all and talk a little bit about my experience as an indie author over the past few years, one-on-one with you, and maybe share some insights on some parts of the indie author I guess field or lifestyle that are not as glamorous as you may think, because for all of the wonderful opportunities and for all of the successes that I have had so far in this field, I've had my pitfalls as well, and I think it is important to not only reflect on the accomplishments, but also to reflect on some of the challenges that we have as indie authors as well, and some of the pitfalls that we face, not only to help other authors who are starting out or maybe on the same journey, but also to help the reader and or purchaser understand where we're coming from as well. Now, I don't want anyone to get this, this is not going to be a bitch fest per se, because as I just said a moment ago, I am incredibly, blessed to have had the success that I've had so far and whatnot, and just the opportunity to not only publish my own work, but also to interact with so many incredibly wonderful authors and to have them on this podcast. This community is just so amazing, especially kind of in the men's adventure fiction and thriller genre. I've been so incredibly blessed to meet so many of you, at least online. And each and every one of you means a lot to me. So if you're listening to this and or watching and you're a fellow author, I really appreciate you, and hopefully some of the stuff that I speak about resonates with you. And same thing for the readers who got and purchased, my books and spread the word and all of that. It means a great deal to me. And so I want you all to know, first and foremost, that I am in fact grateful for all the support, and it does mean a lot to me. And even if you're not like a super big reader, if you've picked up my books, here or there out of curiosity, and if you've at least supported me, I really do appreciate all of your support. So I want to get that out of the way. However, one thing I do want to address that has kind of been a big elephant in the room, for not just me, but for a lot of other authors, in particular indie authors and self-published authors, that I've noticed is kind of what I like to call the plague of the freebie person. I don't really know how else to define them other than, calling them what they are, which is someone who begs for freebies constantly. And they may have good intentions even when they do this. But let me give you an example, because this actually happens a lot to me. In fact, this has been somewhat of an issue I've been dealing with this on and off, throughout my writing career for the past 2 to 3 years, but it really kind of came to a head this past August. And I want to talk about the month of August specifically for indie authors, because that month seems to be a challenge in and of itself. But I kind of want to, define a little bit what I mean by a freebie beggar, right? So when I mean like a freebie beggar, what I mean is someone who they're not really interested in like financially supporting your books, but they constantly want like, freebies of your book or whatnot just for the sake of it, right? And I guess a better example of this would be like, one in particular. Let me lay out a scenario. So at the end of July, or more towards like the middle slash end of July, I published this itis book in the Shadows of Deception saga, Sins of the Assassin, which, despite the fact that it is a shorter book compared to some full-length novels and whatnot, it still took me a full year to write it, despite using some, AI tools to, help like do edits and clean some stuff up and whatnot. That's another misconception. People think that because I use AI tools, some of them think that, the AI just writes Sam's story for me. And no, that's not how I use ChatGPT or AI tools at all. I use them more as, tools to make, corrections or adjustments, or clean some things up in my manuscript and give it, a bit of polish, right? There are several applications for ChatGPT that a lot of authors, including myself, use that help us as, a tool, not necessarily as, we're not just letting AI write the stories for us. We're harnessing ChatGPT as a tool, same way we would use Grammarly or something like that. Spell check, that sort of thing. So, there is a subset of us who use, AI kind of as a tool in our arsenal, but we don't use it as, we don't use it directly to, write the book for us. Right. So there's that misconception, right? Basically, all I use GPT for is kind of in the same way I use dictation, help me be more efficient with my time when writing, so that I can actually focus on writing the story and getting out there, as opposed to, physically typing, which for me as someone with cerebral palsy can be difficult. And also, even though I do edits, and even though I do have beta readers, which I'll get to in a sec, as well, have ChatGPT to look over my manuscripts, not, it's been a helpful tool, and it's helped me catch mistakes and make sure that my, different chapters are consistent with each other thematically. And I also, have kind of built a universe Bible for both of the Shadows of Deception saga and Blood Ties, so that things kind of stay consistent, among kind of the universe with both stories, right? So I really do use ChatGPT as a tool, and I guess that's one misconception that I'd like to address. And again, I know that there are, authors who, disagree fundamentally with the use of ChatGPT at all. And like I said, you're free to, disagree with me on that. But like or not, AI tools are here to stay and they're not going away anytime soon. I think the argument that the business world should be allowed to use AI tools, but that creatives somehow can't because um you know, interferes with the art or whatever. I think that is a really poor argument. To me, that's no different than people who are saying that, people shouldn't use digital over analog because it somehow, disrupts the art form, right? There were the purists who thought that, making movies with digital was like sacrilege, right? And that, you know, the purist, the film purists, they thought that, true filmmakers can only make art with analog film, right? Again, digital is just, a tool in their arsenal. And, essentially, I see AI tools kind of in the same way as a writer. Again, AI is not making me a better writer, but it is helping me to, I guess, make the process more efficient, right? And so there's that aspect of writing that, some people may disagree with me on, but that's part of my process and I've been open about it. Agree with me or disagree that, I think I use AI tools more ethically than some people. And I think that there are a lot of authors who, because they're not as like technically savvy as I am with that stuff, they don't really even understand AI tools. So they're afraid of what they don't understand, and that's not necessarily a criticism of them. That's just an observation that I've made. So, my whole opinion on AI, it's a tool for me and it's a tool for some others, and you're welcome to use it, but I don't think you should be required to use it. And by the same token, if you're using it like I am, I don't think that there's any reason to look down on, use it like as an actual tool. I think that's fairly reasonable, and I don't get a lot of criticism for using it, but I do get some criticism from some authors who, I'm not going to name any names, but I think it is kind of unwarranted. And we just have a difference of opinion on the subject, I guess. That's the best way I can put it. But regardless of whether or not someone uses, um, you know, AI tools or whatnot, um, my books still take time and effort to craft, regardless of what tools I use, right? I put effort and care into my books and into my writing, as does every author, regardless of, what tools they use. There are lots of authors out there who produce great work, right? And one of my pet peeves, like I said, not just for myself, but for other authors, is right, you get readers who are very passionate and they want to support the author community, and they do they do a great job. That they're always gung ho about, like, helping to promote indie authors and spread the word, and um do blurbs, beta read for people, which is helpful, and spread the word and share it with their family, right? We love the readers, and you know who you are. We really do on behalf of the writing community, behalf of the indie author community. I think I speak for all of us when I say we really do appreciate you. With that being said, kind of circling back to my initial kind of gripe, and I know I'm kind of bouncing around here, kind of trying to get to my point, is there does seem to be kind of a, you know, kind of like a casual fair weather person who they might like the fact that they know someone who has written a book, but they're not really willing to do anything to support said author or anything like that. And unfortunately, I've encountered, more than one of these individuals, and lately they've kind of been getting on my nerves a bit. So, without going into too much specific detail, I'm going to lay out a scenario that happened to me in the month of August. And it kind of rattled me a bit and kind of irritated me. I haven't spoken on it, so I'm just kind of going to vent somewhat and, let you guys kind of hear this whole situation and kind of why I'm a bit irritated, right? So, as I mentioned before, I released Sins of the Assassin at the end of July. I had some terrific people beta read the book. Shout out to Jake Widmer and Luke Gozich for beta reading before I released the book in early July and in June. They were awesome. I had a few people from college who have, beta read my books before as well. And, I really appreciate that. I also really appreciate Mr. Travis Davis, author of One of Four, who very recently gave me a generous, shout out on his Book and a Beer, Instagram series that he does. Terrific guy. All the authors I mentioned are just terrific, and you should definitely go out and support them, right? So you have the people who are endlessly, who are very supportive. But then you get the people who are kind of, for lack of a better term, hangers on, right? And so I encountered a situation back in August where I met up with someone at a Dunkin' Donuts, and we had gone to college together, and they, we were talking life and how, everything was and whatnot. And I told them that I had just released, the book, and I was really excited. They asked if they could have a copy of the book. And this is someone who I had given a copy of one of the Shadows of Deception books before, and they said that they would help promote and spread the word. And they didn't. And, later on, this person in kind of the same conversation said to me that they weren't really interested in, buying the book because it was too pricey for them, right? The book, the paperback was retailing for $15, right? Which I think, considering like what, you know, uh, big publishers charge these days, it's kind of a steal. Because like even paperbacks now are $15-$20. Hardbacks are climbing up to 30 in terms of pricing. And so I don't know. I was irritated because this person, I'd given them a book before and asked them to review it if they were willing, and they never did. And yet they were asking for another copy. And what I don't think they understand is every copy that an indie author gives to someone of a published book is one that, that's profit that that's money that we're leaving on the table, right? And so, for some people to, for one person to say, I would just like your book, but I don't want to financially support you, that can get irritating. And unfortunately, I've talked to some other indie authors, and they've kind of gone through, the same thing. And so something occurred to me that, the average reader out there might not understand how the economics of self-publishing goes, right? Because if I price a book for $15, I actually do not make $15 on a paperback. I make around like $5.30 per copy of, per book I sell, and that's the royalty per book, right? And I don't know the exact number, but it's it's somewhere like around the lines of, like, I make $5 not bad, at all, actually pretty good. But there seems to be to be this conception that when authors set the book price, that we make the entirety of what that set price is. So this person, and I've explained to them this before, that just because the book price says it's $15, I don't actually make $15, right? Because I mean, part of that money does go to royalties, but part of that also goes to Amazon's printing and shipping, and distribution, listing on Amazon. That's not even counting like promotion, which is, and advertising, which is a different, thing. You have to pay extra for that if you want to promote on Amazon. So, when I sell a book for 12 or, $15, I'm not making the entirety, of that sale price, right? And it wouldn't irritate me so much if, if a person were like, well, I'd love to buy the book, but I just can't economically swing it right now, right? We all have situations like that. Money's tight. I get that. It's been tough for a lot of us out there. And I empathize and, whatnot, as someone who, who's kind of in that boat for people. I get it, right? But I guess here's kind of the crux of the matter, just to be blunt. If you're saying you don't have enough money to support an indie author or any author to buy their book, but then you're turning around and like dropping that same amount of money on something like Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, if you're spending that same $15 on coffee and then asking us to just give you a copy, that's where I kind of get irritated with some people. And I'm not the only author who deals with this, but I am kind of one of the only authors who, I guess, is kind of speaking out this right now. And it might be a minor thing to some people, but when you've put hard work and effort into your writing, and then people say, well, I want to support you, but I really don't want to, like, spread the word or do, any promotion or anything like that. I would just like to have your book, and your book is a little too pricey, but I'm going to spend money on coffee, which will just be gone in a few hours. That does get irritating, not just for me, but for really any creative, because yeah, we don't do this for the money, at least I don't, but I would at least still like to make some money on the book. And the worst part is I've given books to people who don't even read them then, and so they don't appreciate it, it seems like. Right. And so, I know that might be a convoluted rant, but that's something that that I've dealt with off and on, over the past couple of years. And it kind of came to a boiling point in August. And it's kind of been something on my mind. And, like I said, it's frustrating. I'm not someone who, begs for, money. I'm not someone who begs people to buy my books, but if you are going to if I do give you a free copy, right, of my book, the least you could do is like read the darn thing, right? And then, give me your opinion and, give me your feedback. Leave a review on Amazon and tell your friends and family about it, right? But if you're not willing to do any of that, as unfortunately it seems some people aren't, that's where things get frustrating. And again, I know other authors who, have unfortunately had to deal with the same thing. Now, with that being said, I do want to address something else because I have authors who do send me copies of books to, either beta read or just promote. Case in point, I got my copy of Kyle Miltz's book Fade In a week before he came on the Whitfield Report to promote it. And so, to some people, they might look at that and say, oh man, Sam just gets free books. And it might be true that the book is free in the sense that, like, it's a free copy for me, but I was paying for it in the sense that I had Kyle on my show to, promote the book and to discuss it. And by the way, I did not ask for the book. Kyle just asked if I wanted, an advanced copy, and I said yes. So he was very generous, to give it to me so that I could start to read, in advance before the book, and before the book launched, and it's very good. So I was happy to help, him promote the book. But I also went out and purchased the ebook version and the Audible version as well because I liked Fade In. I like the direction Kyle's new series is going. And so even though, yes, he sent me a free copy, and yes, others like Travis Davis have sent me, free copies as well, right? But, Jake Widmer has sent me like, I've been a beta reader for his books. But I still, go out and buy copies. Same thing with Eric Bishop. Even if I don't buy physical copies, I buy a lot of, Kindle ebooks because I have a Kindle e-reader and I like reading on there. So I do buy a lot of, ebooks actually. So I might not be buying a physical copy, but I still like to support my friends in the indie author community by buying copies of their work. If I can. Sometimes I'm not able to buy books right away, and because we all have those financial constraints, and I'll tell people, hey man, I can't buy this book right now, but it's on my list, or something to that effect. I try and, give back to the indie author community as much as possible in that way. We all do try and support each other that way. And again, there are lots of awesome readers who do support us, but, there are people out there who don't really have any interest in, like, in the books themselves. They just like kind of orbiting around, a perceived like published author. And so I guess, that stuff kind of irritates. It's just not, it's not, helpful, guys, if you're one of those, who just kind of wants to orbit but not really support us. Like I said, the vast majority of people are great, and we love you all, and thrilled to have people support my work and other authors in the indie community. But I just felt that this one gripe had to be addressed. The other thing that we deal with that I would say is more common, and I don't really blame this on anyone in particular, except just for maybe social media, is like for whatever reason, August is just kind of like a very bad month for books being promoted on social media, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's necessarily, like back to school season or what, but the algorithm, and it's not just on Instagram or Twitter, it's like all of social media. Just if you're a self-published author, it just seems to drop off the map for all of us. And that's very frustrating because, look, if even if you release like a book in July or something, which some of us do, you want sales for continuous months. That's how you gain momentum, right? And so, like I said, since The Assassin had a terrific, 2 weeks after it was released in July. But then I think for August, I like only sold one copy um via Amazon, and then two other people bought copies that I just had like, physically like on my person. I really appreciate those, three people that bought the book. You all are amazing. But again, like the drop off as far as visibility, for posts relating to the book on social media and whatnot was kind of irritating. And that's the other thing too is, in the indie author community, I guess. I understand that some people might get irritated with me just, posting about my books and about my author works every single day, right, on your social media feeds and other authors, right? I get that. We all see each other's, posts like promoting our latest work. And I understand that if you're not an author and if you're not even like a big reader, it can get annoying to see like, my posts, every single day on social media. But, unfortunately, with the way the world works now and with the way marketing works, you have to post, every day. And it's not just, you know, necessarily for authors, it's for YouTubers, podcasters, business. It's never ending. That is just the way of the internet, now, and it's something we have to deal with. People ask, why don't I post like more personal photos, on my timeline? And, I do. I post, memories and flashbacks and vacations and, whatnot when I do travel. But day to day, I'm a very private person, and many other authors are. So I don't feel the need to document every second of every day. And honestly, like, writing books, that does take up a lot of our time. So when you're seeing our promotional posts or whatever, that is in fact, you are seeing an input into our lives. Authors, both indie and self-published and traditionally published as well. So social media and promotion is just part of the grind at this point, I feel. And, again, folks, just very blessed to, be able to do what I do and put, 3 books out per year plus, also this, this short story collection that I'm part of with Veritas Entertainment. I will encourage people to go and check this out as well. And, love the Veritas crew for all they do, as well. And, it's an honor to know everyone in that community as well. And, I have an announcement that I will probably, announce tomorrow on Substack regarding Volume 2 of Blood Ties, which comes out this fall. Been working hard on that, so stay tuned for that. Like I said, Sins of the Assassin until now. I did actually slightly reduce the price on the paperback to $12.99 because some of you guys who do genuinely want to support the book asked for that, and enough of you asked. I was like, there are enough of you out there who do genuinely want to support the book that I will, I'll drop the price of it. And so for, the people who do want to do that, I'm willing to. For those who want to, for those who just want to complain about the price of books, but then, want to spend on coffee, more on coffee than a book, you kind of know how I feel about you. I'm sorry if today's podcast kind of came off as a little ranty. I try not to, complain too much, but this has just kind of been on my chest for a while, and I suppose that, kind of venting frustrations every once in a while is something that I like to do on, the show, and it's something that is kind of therapeutic. For the other authors out there, have any of you had to deal with, similar type of stuff? And if so, let me know kind of what your ups and downs are, as authors as well. I've talked to several of you in the past, but if there are any authors who, would like to share their insights as well, please let me know and we can start a dialogue and maybe start to build some more awareness on some of this stuff. Anyway, I'm just one voice, but hopefully, some of you can relate to my ups and downs as well. And once again, very appreciative for the indie author community, and also very thankful for, those fans who are incredibly supportive. So, yeah, great to talk to you. As always, I will be back on the Whitfield Report live show with Max and Morpheus on Wednesday night. And then Friday night, I have Bits and Bones with Morpheus, where we discuss gaming. And so, yeah, check out those shows as well. And yeah, folks, I think that will do it for this show. I'm Sam Whitfield. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you on the next episode of the Whitfield Report on Wednesday. And take care, folks. God bless.
The right to offend is not some pesky little part of freedom of speech that we have to put up with. It is the heart and soul and lungs of freedom of speech. It is the coursing lifeblood of human progress. It is the instigator of liberty and modernity and science and understanding. What a laughing stock today's student leaders are, that they can so casually dismiss the right to be offensive without realizing that their lovely, enlightened lives are the gift of individuals who gave offense. Offensiveness is not just something we have to begrudgingly accept. Offensiveness is the motor of human progress.
Thank you for watching the Whitfield Report live on the Right to Offend Media Network. Make sure to check out Sam's books on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. You can follow Sam on X at SamW_NGC and the Right to Offend Media Network at RTO Media. Like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. And until next time, God bless God save this great nation. God, freedom, legacy, in that order.